Java Tutorial 3. We're looking at for loops in Java. Looping, something you need to do in every programming language, and one of the ways that we do it in Java is using the for loop. If you know for loops from Python, then don't skip this video because for loops in Java are a lot different. If you know for loops from JavaScript, then you can go ahead and skip this video because for loops are exactly the same in JavaScript as in Java. So the purpose of a for loop is to execute the same code multiple times without having to write out the code multiple times. So we can just write it out once instead of having to waste time writing out the same code over and over. So to start writing our for loop, we just write the word for, and then we put some brackets. In the brackets, we're going to put three things. First, we're going to make an integer I, which we'll set to 0. I is going to be our counter for the for loop, essentially. And the for loop is going to keep going as long as I is less than 1,000. And after each pass of the for loop, we want I to increase by 1. So we're just going to write I plus plus. Plus plus just means increase by 1, so increase I by 1 after every pass of the for loop. And then we're going to make a set of curly braces, and everything in between the braces is going to execute for each pass of the for loop. Inside the for loop, we'll just put a print statement, and we'll just have it print the value of I. So we've declared a variable I of type int and set it to 0 to start. And we've said that we want the for loop to keep going as long as I is less than 1,000. So as soon as I is 1,000, then the loop's gonna stop. And after each pass of the loop, we're just getting I to increase by 1. And for each pass of the loop, everything inside the braces is going to execute. So I is just going to be printed to the screen. So if we save and run this, we're going to get everything from 0 to 999 printed to the console. And we can change any of the values in here if we want to. So we could start I at 5 and have it keep going until I is less than 10. And we could have I increase by 2 after each pass of the loop. There is a quicker way to write this than what we're going to do, but we haven't covered unary operators yet in this series, so we're just going to write I equals I plus 2. So I is going to start at 5, the loop's going to keep going as long as I is less than 10, and I is going to increase by 2 after each pass of the loop. So we're going to get 5, 7, and 9 printed to the screen. We could also use values in here that aren't numbers. So we could say as long as I is less than num dogs, and then we have to declare and initialize num dogs up here. So we'll say int number of dogs equals 11. And then we can make another variable to use in the for loop. Let's say int number of dogs fed. And we'll set number of dogs fed equal to 0 at the start of the loop. So 0 dogs have been fed, and as long as the number of dogs that have been fed is less than the total number of dogs, then increase the number of dogs that have been fed by 1, so plus plus. And then for each pass, we're going to print out num dogs fed plus space dogs have been fed. And then on the next line, we'll make another print statement. We'll say num dogs minus num dogs fed. And we'll put that in an extra set of brackets just to make it clear what's happening. So we'll say num dogs minus num dogs fed plus still need to be fed. So we have the number of dogs fed, which starts at 0. The loop's going to keep going until all of the dogs have been fed. Let's just make this less than or equal to num dogs so that in the end it prints out 0 dogs still need to be fed. And for each pass of the loop, 1 more dog is going to be fed. And our print statements in here are just going to get printed to the console for each pass. So in the beginning, we have 0 dogs which have been fed and 11 which need to be fed, and then it just keeps counting up until all 11 dogs have been fed.